Recording started. Now I gotta remember my PowerPoint shortcuts. What is it? Like function shift, function F5? Nope, that's not it. Was it? Yeah. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. I think last time I couldn't get it to present like this because you get your notes and stuff. And I just gave up on that. All right, cool. I don't know what it looks like on the live. We don't have anybody connected. It's whatever. If I have to redo it, I'll redo it later. So yeah, this is the introduction to ESP 8266's ESP32s, basically ESPs, and building a DAuth detector. I'm Ryan Zagrodnik. I am a penetration tester by day. At night, I'm just like anybody else. I'm a kind of a gamer. I got into this industry I was tired of losing at games. So what did I do? I installed some hacks and got banned right away. So that's kind of my interest. My interest started there. I started as a sysadmin over with Crush Soul. Did that for 4 years in 2007, and I was like, I can't do this rest of my life. And I saw people getting CISSPs and bigger budgets, and ours was getting cut. So if you can't beat them, join them. I went and got my CISSP and just passed my OCP recently, and it's been awesome ever since. We're gonna go over a few things. We're gonna go over the hardware. If you didn't get one. You joining the? Did you join the meeting? All right, cool. Yeah, how's it look? We're going over the hardware. If you didn't get one, I got more up here. We're gonna have going to go over the Adruino IDE, drivers, board managers, etc. The code, flashing, and then some other cool ESP projects. Does it show that? Okay. Yes, it was. Okay, great. So if you haven't heard of ESP microcontrollers, this is not a extrasensory perception, where I can like read your mind talk. Hey, is someone doing deauthing? It just lit up. All right, cool. It stopped. We'll go back to that in a second. I'm only sharing this screen, so people online probably won't be able to see my Adruino IDE, but I'll switch over to that later. Requirements. So you got the hardware. It's a ESP. Technically, it's an ESP01S. But when you go into the Arduino IDE, you're going to connect to it with a ESP8266 and a Windows device. You can do this from a Linux device using the ESP. It's like a flasher. It's a Python script. It's just a little bit more tedious than having a GUI. So why? So you can buy these DAuth detectors for $20. And I was like, hey, I can do it cheaper, right? So I was figured I could order the parts. You could buy these things. These are actual links when I share the slides out later. It's made by a guy named Space Hoon on Twitter, which just means like I assume chicken in German. Somebody else made these DS-type watches here. Like the bottom screenshot. So you can put a deauthor or this code onto a watch and walk into a room and kick everybody off the Wi-Fi if you want. And then as well as there's a Raspberry Pi shortage, so they keep saying that's going to come to an end, right? Like and it hasn't. I think the Pi 5 just got announced, but yeah. So these for anybody wondering, these are like $5 out of AliExpress, and they're pretty cheap. Free stuff. Yeah. So this is when I was flashing them for DEF CON, I lined them all up. That's what they look like. You've all got one. If you don't got one, I got more up here. Aren't there other devices that can detect deauthentication? Yes, there totally is. This Flipper Zero can do it. You can buy. I've got some stuff in my bag. There are other things that can do it. So this isn't like groundbreaking new research or anything like that. But I wanted something I could hand out to my customers that they could plug into their laptop or just a power strip on their desk and like get notified when they were being attacked. So Expressive ESP, they're in Shanghai, China. Everybody's like, oh, how do you trust hardware that comes out of China, but like you literally can buy it and like flash it, right? So you're literally erasing it, and you know, could they have backdoored it? Yes, but it's kind of the state we're in, right? Like all of your devices have Huawei chips in them probably, and like we're NSA backdoor stuff all the time. So if you're really worried about it, there are American companies that you can do the same stuff with, but of course it's not $5. It's a lot more. They have a Discord if you want to check it out. I've been on there a couple times and asked for support questions, and people are pretty responsive. It's pretty nice. The chances are, if you go home, tear up your smart switch or whatever, there's probably like a ESP in the. Are you doing it right now or no? No. Oh yeah, yeah. Work did not approve these, so they have a slide deck, but I was like, I'm gonna use Midjourney for everything. Yeah, so they're highly capable. They're cheap. They're easy to use. I was getting ready for this talk in May. We have like a work event in Wild Rose, Wisconsin, and I didn't have any like stuff with me, and I was just like stripping the wires with my teeth and connecting them with my fingers, and burned one of them up and almost started a fire. But it didn't really matter because it was $5, right? So, and you can't really see in this screenshot. It says like 99 cents, but it's really like $5.50 shipped from China. So I have a link down here. And if you're gonna order some yourself, just make sure you order this one down here that's highlighted. So A266 versus the 32. So the 32, biggest thing, 32's got a dual core. I kind of went down this path because I told my wife I was gonna replace or put in cabinet lighting, and they have a open source piece of software called WLED. So you can flash them, and they're sound reactive. And I have an actual board set up, but I broke it at our IT summit, and it was heavy. I didn't bring it tonight. But it's really cool. Like you see those, like the streamers of the lights around the room, whatever. These are individually addressable LEDs, and if you're gonna do that, go with a dual core because there's some sound reactive stuff, and you can actually, if you're like a DJ, you could pipe UDP sound to it, and it'll be sound reactive. I found the A266s are a little slow. It'll still do some of the cool stuff, but the ESP32 is the new version. All right, so deauthentication attack. So deauthentication attack is when someone there's two things really. You can deauth somebody, or there's a deassociation frame too. So they're kind of like the same thing, but basically, people will do this to try to capture WPA handshake, or the newer version is a PMKID. It's like pairwise master key. I should have typed that out in my slide. But the WPA handshake you can capture passively. Same with the PMKID. If you got WPA personal and your neighbor's using WPA2, and their password for their Wi-Fi is in the word list that you have, you're likely gonna be able to crack that. If it's not in the word list or not in the dictionary list, it's much more difficult. But for home routers, one of the guys, he's not here tonight, Azure. There's a GitHub repo out there for if you get a router from Comcast, it'll have like a password on it. Someone's gone through and iterated out those algorithms. And if you go into like any apartment complex around here, there's probably a 90% chance you can crack. If they haven't changed the password on the Wi-Fi or the router box, there's a really good chance that you can crack those using this GitHub repo. So also, like I've got wireless cameras at home. Yes, I've got SD cards in them. So like if you kick them offline, they're still recording. But if I happen to be watching at the time, right, like I've now lost visibility. Plus, as you'll see, so the old way, I used to have a laptop with a wireless card cable of deauth or packet injection. That's actually the command that I'll use on my engagements to deauth devices. The new way is this Flipper Zero, and like I've got mine set up right now to attack the DC608 wireless router here underneath the bag. I've got it all ready to go. I just push a button, and now I'm deauthing everybody that's connected to that access point. I'm glad the demo guys are smiling at me today that lit up because I was a little nervous. I plugged these into like a battery at home, like one of those USB batteries, and depending on your voltage on those things, it'll work for like the first minute, but then it'll stop working. So plug it into a low voltage thing or a laptop or whatever, and it'll work.
Can you explain how Deauth works?
Yeah. So basically, like if you are connected to your home Wi-Fi and you click the disconnect button, right? It sends a deassociation frame to the access point to say like, hey, I'm a client, I'm disconnecting from the access point. You can release my IP address. I'm not sure of the practicality of the other packet, which is deauthenticate. What really is that used for other than attacking? But that's the other thing you can send, and you can send 5 packets. You can send 1,000 packets. I'm not sure of like why they built that into the RFC, one of those standards. But yeah,
It's a flaw.
it is.
That's why they can't patch it out.
Does WPA3 does that it's still vulnerable?
Wi-Fi itself, yeah.
So this is a video here. I took it home. This is a wireless camera, and I just push the button, and now if you've got wireless cameras on, you're blind, right? So my piece of advice is hardwire your cameras. This is a Chat GPT generated slide. The first, really the only thing you really need to know is enable wireless client isolation. So what this does is if you turn this on at home, like I've got like a Plex server. My Plex server is hardwired into the network. I don't really have like a lot of reasons for wireless devices to talk to each other. So turn this on at home shouldn't affect your like connection or performance. But basically, you turn this on, and all you can see is your device and the access point. So I tell all my customers to turn this on because I can't come in and just YOLO deauth everybody, and it really is like a checkbox in their configuration settings.
How does that prevent deauth?
Because there's no other devices. All you see is your device and the access point. So it is like a tunnel to the access point. Whereas normal wireless, it's everybody can see everybody, right? Like it's an open network. This other stuff,
Does that get beyond it?
no, you can like.
By
I mean, the packets won't reach the device, right? So you could technically denial of service the access point and overwhelm it. But like I couldn't target your laptop, and in theory it shouldn't work. When I was testing this at our cabin, my boss was like, "Don't do it. I'm in the middle of something important," and I did it anyway. Because I thought I was targeting like a specific, like I brought this with me, and it ended up like there are some casualties, I guess, that can happen even if you're targeting a specific access point. These other things are good. IDS, IPS, a lot of people, consumer routers don't have that. Rate limiting, great. A lot of consumer routers don't have that. Same thing with intrusion prevention systems, intrusion detection systems. And then just keep your firmware up to date really is, good advice. So limitations. So this is only 2.4 gigahertz only. If you want to monitor 5 gigahertz, the flipper can't do 5 gigahertz DAW thing. But if you want to monitor, now there's 6 gigahertz routers out there. So there are limitations to this. Also, the antenna, is built into this thing, right? And like it's not a very big device. If you've got a corporate network of 4 floors, it's probably not going to pick up something you do on the first floor. So you can get bigger antennas though, right? You can get ESPs with antenna attachments, and you can connect those. All right, so meat and potatoes. So download Adruino IDE. Click through the defaults. It's gonna want to talk out to the internet, so you're gonna say yes. You're definitely gonna trust the drivers as long as they're from Arduino. Installation managers. So this is kind of the gotcha that I ran into. Is when I went and tried to flash this thing, you have to install these board managers, and to do that, you have to go into preferences and copy basically this link here. That's just JSON. Before it would work, for whatever reason, I'd plug it in, I'd see it on the COM port, but I couldn't write to it for whatever reason. until I did this. And of course, like none of the directions out there say this. The code. So the code is pretty small. It's 113 lines. I don't know C++. I barely, I know a little bit of Java. I'm decent at Python, but I'm not a developer. And the developer who wrote the code was kind enough to put in a bunch of comments and stuff, and it's readable. It's not that many lines, so you can kind of go through it and tweak the settings. If you wanted to listen on a particular channel, you can switch that. But really, I only had to make like 3 edits, and it worked on this hardware, even though it wasn't made for it. Also, there is code to turn this into a deauthor. If you do that, be familiar with those local laws. Like I was giving this talk at the last 2 places were casinos, so do not like take this into a casino because there's conferences out there where they make like a deauth detector wand. But like like the casinos are like run by mafia, right? Like they have the technology to like triangulate where you are, and they will not be happy, when they find out that you're walking around and messing with their networks. So no, yeah. If I knew that, that would be super cool. I know there's like certain access points out there that can like target if you do set up an evil access point where it clones an access point name, and you're trying to convince people to connect to your evil access point instead of the legit one. There are devices out there will like recognize the MAC address is different and try to actually denial service attack those devices. But I'm sure those licenses aren't cheap through Aruba or Cisco, whoever it is. So you can do it if you're want to watch the world burn, but otherwise I figured I'd make it a deauth detector and something blue team instead of red team. So the code, we're just going to walk through the code here. Basically comment out LED built-in and LED invert lines. Don't ask me why. I don't know. Like I just kind of had to mess with this until I got it to work. If you buy an ESP 8266, you could probably leave those lines alone because the LED pins are correct. But if it's in ESP01S, this is the stuff I had to comment out. Also, the channels, you can have it hop on 14, but for the US, the channels are 1 through 11. So, I just commented out 14, and it's going to channel hop and watch for packets, and we'll watch that on the show console when we get to it. All right, so there's a lot of different functions in here. They're pretty self-explanatory. The packet types that I was talking about right here, deauthentication or deassociation frames, are listed out. So if you like went into Wireshark and captured and you wanted to sort it and filter it out, you can sort by these packet types and see the packets. That's basically what it's doing. It'll output to the serial console when an attack is started, when an attack is stopped, kind of based on some of the variables that were. This other slide here, I don't think. Yeah, I do have them. So you can adjust the packet rate and time. It did light up here when there probably wasn't a deauth attack happening, so it does need to be kind of tuned, and you will get false positives when it lights up. But when it lights up and stays solid, you can be pretty confident that like someone's messing around and deauthing. All right, so kind of the biggest part of the code here is this loop, and don't ask me to explain that very much. But the setup again, they're nice enough to put in comments. The loop will actually go through and it's just going to measure packets, and then it's going to increment the attack counter when it's detected, and when it's not detected, it's going to decrement the counter. So the rest of this stuff talks about the channel hopping. So this is where you'd set it to. If you want to keep it to a static channel, this is where you do that. He does have some more code in here to set it to one channel, but I just left mine as channel hopping, and it works just fine. Flashing. So the biggest gotchas here are making sure it shows up in your COM ports. You shouldn't have to install a driver on Windows 10 once you install the board manager. Like it seemed like when I originally plugged this thing in, it was getting detected as something unknown. But once I saw the board manager, it got detected as a it's hard to read there in the slide, but like channel. I think it's like 840 or something. But yeah, once it shows up, you just pick generic ESP8266 and the COM port. And then after you made the code edits, you just click compile sketch, and it'll go through and compile the sketch and then write it to the device. So testing, the dip switch has to be to the left. So once you flash it, the dip switch will be on the right. Unplug it, plug it back in, move it to the left, and it should start working. Do not deauth devices you don't have permission to. You have permission to target this DC608 router if you happen to bought your flipper. Go nuts. It is vulnerable. So if you want to, if somebody bought their equipment tonight and could tell me the Wi-Fi password, I'll buy them a beer. But it is crackable, and it is in like the top 500 or 4,000 word list. So if you happen to want to capture it, let me know, and I can help you with that. But yeah, basically the blue light will light up when it's detected, and that's the whole design. Extras. So my boss's boss wanted me to have it send an email, but I'd have to like send up a bunch of infrastructure for that or a text message. There is code out there to add a buzzer or a speaker that the author already has. So if you happen to buy a device and connect a screen or a buzzer or a speaker, the code's already out there. You could add another light. You can do a lot of stuff, but I spent too much time making my mid-journey slides. So other ESPs. So top left is what's called a DNS drive-by. It's by this guy, Alex Lind. Super creepy device. It's a ESP and then a GPS on the right there of the top left. So you can plug this into someone's car, and it's going to use wireless captive portals to send DNS requests that you can set up canary tokens. So you can put this in someone's car, plug it into like a battery, or even better, into their into their power system, and then retrieve it later. And like you could track where they went. Not super detailed, but as long as it's going by like a captive portal. So if you were driving by here tonight, it would try to connect to the wireless. If the wireless had a portal that says like, click yes to get on the network, you wouldn't even have to do that because a lot of the captive portals will allow DNS requests to go out unfiltered, and that's what this device uses. So I've got one of those in my bag. If you want to check it out, it's not working. The GPS module was counterfeit, so AliExpress again, thanks. But the new one's coming, and I'm hoping to do some more testing with that. This one, second one, middle left, is it's got two ESP32s in it. I actually picked this up at DEF CON. It's a war driver. If you're not familiar with war driving, it just basically like drives around and collects GPS information and then wireless access point names and your Bluetooth devices. So it'll collect that information. I grab it. I upload it to wiggle.net. If you're not familiar with Wiggle, I think it's wiggle.org. But it's just like an open source project run by two guys in San Francisco. If I have like a wireless engagement coming up and I don't know the access point names, I can go to Wiggle, type in the company's address, and see if someone had war drive there before. It'll show me the access point names, so I'll know that before I even show up. But it's like fake internet points. You don't get anything for it. It's just like when I'm walking my dog. I have this. I war drive. You put it in your phone too. The third on the bottom left here is the ThoughtCon badge. It was also an ESP32. It was designed after like the game Contra. One of the bosses you like fire into the eye, and it actually had like a laser tag system built in. It connected to IRC. It did a bunch of cool stuff. But the more I started like getting into these microcontrollers, the more I started seeing them more and more. The ESP 32 flipper is an ESP 32. The Wi-Fi dev board or whatever. There are a couple of aftermarket, but the official one is the ESP 32. And then the top right here is from a guy, just call me Coco. He's the Marauder guy. I have this with me as well, but it's an ESP32. It's got a battery. It's got a touch screen, and you can do, kind of all the stuff the flipper does. But it's just kind of a handheld device. So Other ESP projects, the Wi-Fi Dra, this Lausanne guy, super popular on Twitter. He was on a train, I think, and like drove the country and did war driving. Those are a bunch of ESP32s, and they actually designed a board, and I think they sell that now. But instead of channel hopping, they've got one for each channel, and every time like a light blinks, it's a different access point. Yeah, the Mayhem is by a guy. I don't know his name on here. I think it's like John Lynch, but just a bunch of stuff on there. That's an ESP32 camera. He has like a laser pointer, just a bunch of like stuff you don't necessarily need, but I thought it was cool. Second left middle is a particulate matter sensor, and if you've been in Wisconsin lately, with the wildfires and stuff, we have filters in our house, like our furnace filter, but I actually bought other filters because you can connect this. The device on the left is the actual sensor, like $15 on AliExpress, and then the ESP32 or 8266 is another $5. So if you're going to purple.net, they sell sensors you can buy in your house, put it inside, outside. They're like $100 a piece, which is ridiculous. You can build it yourself for about $25 and, monitor your air quality. And it was super interesting. We have a gas stove, and I'm a huge gas stove fan. And like reading the sensor, after we cook, I'm kind of like, I was like, oh, I'll open my window and it'll be fine. No, like it does not. It actually gets to like if I had asthma or something, or an infant at home, I'd be running way more filters. So that's cool. I have that with me tonight too. And then this guy did like, I think this is a video. Is it? Yeah. So this was a YouTube project. This is the lights I was talking about. It has a microphone. I think people maybe on the call can hear that, but for whatever reason, it's not playing through the speakers. But basically, it's sound reactive. It has a microphone. You can see the bottom left picture here is the ESP32, and then that little circle thing is the microphone. And it's like one of those microphones that's in the Alexas. It's super sensitive, and it actually will auto adjust the gain. So like if I got music playing and I go upstairs and I come downstairs, it'll actually pick up my footsteps and light up. So that's super cool. That's WLED. That's the project. Why is this not working? There we go. Even more. So the hack butt work. I asked them if I should take that out of my slides, and they said no, leave it in. If you're not familiar with hack butt, that's what it looks like down there. It is retired. I can't buy them anymore. Will, you've got one of the nuggets, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So same guy that makes the DNS drive-by, I think makes the Wi-Fi nugget. Yeah. No, it's not John Lynch. It's Alex Lind. Yeah. And then I have I thought the Mayhem was cool and got that in here again. But basically they're everywhere. So this is the particulate matter sensors. This is actually taken from my house. You can see some of these spikes. They're not really huge. But if you connect this thing to the internet, there's a German university that will put it in Grafana and collect your data, and you can go access it for free online. Kind of cool. Otherwise, if you just want to like keep it local, you can do that. I don't have any screenshots of that, but it basically takes a reading like every, I think 130, 160 seconds, and then either uploads to the graph or tells you what the reading was. So these will do PM 2.5 and PM 10, and my understanding of it is, PM 2.5 is one you really care about. But it's interesting to watch the graphs because they correlate, right? Because you're getting air pollution. Weather station. So this guy, I follow him on Instagram. It's like some of the coolest art I've ever seen. And this GIF doesn't do it justice, but he has a lights program to like mimic like a aircraft. And these are all just like brass fittings, and he basically connects. I don't think it's it's not an ESP. It's something else. But basically, like, he makes art out of this stuff, and it's just a weather station. But I thought this was kind of my inspiration for the whole thing, getting started with this, right? Because Raspberry Pis are like $100, a piece now. They're supposed to be 30, and you can get these devices. You get the OLED screens for $3 or $4 a piece, and then you can kind of tinker with it. And if you fry it, you fry it with a Pi. You fry it, and you might not get a new one for months. All right, so that brings us to the end. These were that's Jesus. The inspiration for the Midjourney pictures. I asked it to give me a picture of Jesus microwaving a burrito so hot that he couldn't eat it. If you're not familiar with that, it's from The Simpsons. It is a paradox, technically. And I actually asked that question in my Sunday school and got kicked out for had to go sit in the corner for the next one. So, but yeah, it's $20, to buy a Deauthentication Detector online. I was like, hey, I can do it for cheaper than that, and I think I spent like $350 on electronics. So now I have a huge tote of stuff. I have a soldering iron, a bunch of stuff. So my wife will tell you that I did not save any money. I spent money. But yeah, that's the end. So I will share my other screen, and we'll just walk through and flash this thing. Let me switch my presenter.
So, question: the ESP is just the thing on the top, and the bottom thing is just the
adapter. Yep. I am going to present the Arduino IDE screen. All right, so right now I'm gonna have the serial monitor bottom left there. It's monitoring for packets. I'm starting a deauth attack right now. To the screen, you see attack detected. It lights up. It's calling the packets. Awesome. What we're gonna do now is flash it. I'm gonna unplug it. I'm gonna flip the dip switch. I'm gonna plug it back in. The code is here. I already edited it. Click go. It's going to say, compiling a sketch. And in a little bit, we'll get information outputted to the screen here. The demo guys are smiling at me. They are. So it does tell you some cool stuff, like the crystal, the MAC address. There are some settings up here in preferences that you might have to set. But it should auto detect. In order to get the serial connection, you have to have the baud rate right. Come on. So it's 115/200. You can set that before you flash it if you happen to have a preference.
That's pretty standard.
yeah. If you're when in doubt, do 115/200. But basically, that's it. It's been flashed now. It says it hard reset it. Unplug it. Plug it back in. Flip the dip switch. Oh, it's dark in here. And we should. Yeah, you won't get output. I think it still works. But what if for whatever reason for the serial monitor portion, if you don't do the dip switch there, it starts going right now. For whatever reason it won't work. So we'll do another test here. Lights up. I'm deauthing the access point, and that is it. So any other questions, concerns, comments, airing of grievances?
What would it take to go to 5 gigahertz? More different.
Yeah.
And also different.
I think there are ESPs out there that have 5 gigahertz radios. I think there's also devices out there that have the they must have the hardware for the radios, because the devices I've seen have like that little I don't know what they're called, but it's like a thing you can attach a antenna to. So yeah. So if you have, I think you have to buy like the 5 gigahertz version. I don't know if there's a 6 gigahertz version yet. But basically, yeah, you have to buy the hardware that supports that. So if you want to have these in your SOC, you'd probably have to have 3 of them. So and then if you go to the 5 gigahertz too, there's lots more channels, right? So the channel hopping would be kind of a little bit slower, but if you're monitoring your corporate network, right, you generally use the same channels. Maybe you might use a few different, but yeah, you could have a few of these devices up, and then as soon as it lights up, send the armed guards out to start breaking kneecaps and searching bags. But yeah, any other questions? I'm gonna share these slides out, so if you want the slides, I have them. If you go to my Twitter right now, it's the losing edge with a 0 instead of a O. They are shared out there as well too, but I have them in PDF form. So if you want to go home and flash this yourself and you run into problems, that's a good reference. Otherwise, DM me. I'm pretty responsive and happy to jump on we have a Discord, so happy to jump on a remote session and troubleshoot it with you because yeah. So the week before DEF CON, I was testing this stuff. And I bought it from AliExpress and I visually looked at it and I'm like, yeah, this is good. But when I was flashing it, it wasn't working. It was a Sunday before DEF CON and I had to order a bunch of parts. So honestly, the hardest part with a lot of these projects is ordering the right parts. So if you are gonna order anything or you have questions, shoot me a DM or post in the channel, in the Hardware Hacking channel. I'll try to take a look and make sure you don't order 60 of the wrong thing like I did.
So would WPA2 Enterprise change how I feel about DDoS attacks at all?
100%, yeah. So you can still do the DDoSing and capture the handshake, but if you're using Radius or certificates or like you're tied into Active Directory, I can try to crack the PMKID or the WPA handshake, but it's not gonna crack. It's just the way that the architecture is built. It's you're kind of and we'll tell customers that too, like, hey, we're still gonna do these things even though we know it's not gonna work. But occasionally a customer I'll run and they'll say they have WPA Enterprise enabled, and I'll get in there. No, it's pre-shared key. So yeah, it's always good to test. And there are, for WPA Enterprise, my bread and butter there is stand up an evil access point, try to trick people to connecting to my access point, enter in their credentials, and I'll capture that. That's kind of the most success. The other way I'll get onto corporate WPA Enterprise is I'll password spray Office 365, right? So if I get a hit there, I can then take that and use those Active Directory credentials. And a lot of places won't use 2FA on their Wi-Fi, right? So if I'm password spraying outside and the customer's, close enough to drive to, I might drive there and try to hop on their Wi-Fi. But yeah, that's really my attack path there, right? Is password spray or trick someone into connecting to your access point and giving up their credentials.
Maybe better off password spraying that access point.
Yes, yeah, that is another thing. I don't have any good tools to do that, I guess. That I can think of off the top of my head, but yes, you could. I guess. I mean, I guess I could probably use Burp or something. But yeah, it's that is you're right. With Office 365, I'm probably gonna get a lockout at 5, and maybe the Wi-Fi might not have that, so I might be able to do a lot more passwords in a lot less time.
Azure lockout.
Is it? Yeah. I've had customers lately that are what I'm doing now is 3 attempts, and it's 7 days or something. So yeah. So I think they have the E5 license. So
That's why.
yeah. So success will reset that counter, but with this, the last 2 customers I've had, I've only been on password spray once per day, just because I don't want to lock out accounts, and I've been seeing that more and more. People having super strict lockout, and a lot of people have self-service where they can unlock it themselves. Because I was if I happen to lock out a bunch of accounts, I try to convey the risk. If I do this, somebody else could do this, and you read those threads on the Reddit where they enforce MFA on all their accounts, and they forget to sync one account first, and that's why you hear about the break glass accounts where you have one account that doesn't have MFA, because to enable these policies, there was just a Reddit thread the other day. A sysadmin's how screwed am I that I enabled MFA and he had no devices enrolled, right? So he clicked OK, and then he went to sign in, and it's what's your MFA token? And he was basically screwed. So I want to go back to that thread and read it. But everybody's don't you have a break glass account or whatever? And people will say, if you have a break glass account, the attacker could find that. And it's yes, but you want to keep the username and password like in a safe or like you know. So yes, yeah, not not mixed in with the other accounts. So, any other questions, concerns, comments? Heckling's encouraged. Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for coming. We usually do like a social hour afterwards downstairs. They got Mario Kart if anybody wants to battle. But yeah, this is thanks for coming, and we'll see you downstairs. Anyone's first time here, come talk to me. Should thank the person online. Oh yeah, thank you, Daniel Kraft. He's gone. Oh. Oh